What's up, Joe 200? All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain this week's assignment to you. Okay, so this is the beginning of the last week in May, summer 2019. Starts Memorial Day, which is the 27th. Okay, I'm checking out my calendar right now. Okay, all right, so let's get in there. Okay. What we're going to be doing now is we're going to be, leaping into the biology of aging, and it's important to understand the background of why we age, because much of why we age produces an underlying risk factor for a lot of diseases, and we're going to set it up for you guys so you understand the link between aging and each of these three diseases. Again, these diseases, if you reflect back on your prior readings, these are the non-communicable diseases, meaning they're not infectious diseases, they're chronic diseases that slowly progress through life and have a huge both personal and financial consequence to it. So I'm going to click right here just to remind you of what I'm talking about. So we'll see right here, it says the growing burden of non-communicable diseases. Okay, diseases like heart disease, cancer, diabetes, and so when we see that the concept of growing burden, it's the burden on the individual, something like arthritis as well, and how that impacts their overall quality of life, the burden on the individual, and how that impacts their ability to be competitive in the workplace. The growing and for the person individual, how that really impacts their psychological well-being and their financial well-being. Okay, then we can toss the baton over to you, and so you're the person that's having to deal with a parent or grandparent that has one of these slow, progressive, non-communicable diseases like Alzheimer's disease or heart disease, diabetes, cancer, something like that. And so, so you're now a caregiver, and you're now having to split your efforts between your own personal needs of working and also dealing with this person who you're responsible for. So they're becoming now dependent on you. This concept of this dependency ratio that comes up when we look at the first critical thinking assignment, and how that affects you both psychologically. You get worn out, and economically. Okay, the time you're being spent being a caregiver is time that you cannot spend on your financial well-being. We then can expand this to the sociological consequences. We look at people over the age of 65. The cost for caring for these individuals, whether it's hospital stays or doctor visits or drugs, this all comes through a societal payment, these entitlement programs, and what I'm talking about is Medicare. And so that as the population grows, society is going to have to pony up financially. There's going to be more taxation at your level, at the younger person, to finance the older people. Okay, and so this is how it kind of links back to this critical thinking assignment. All right, so this is it's a very relevant thing. We're going back and forth. All right, so what I'm going to do, say back and forth, I mean from your prior readings to your new readings. Now I'm going to go back here, okay, in my browser, and I'm going to look now at the theories of aging. Now you've already been exposed to this through your discussion, and so this is just part of your reading assignment. Okay, so I'm going to be putting this video right here. All right, and when we look at the theories of aging, again, you're gonna do your quizzes from there. But I just wanted to give you some relevance in terms of these theories and how they apply to the overall concept of age-related disease. All right, so this is a PDF file now. It's opened up in Adobe Acrobat, and so it goes through this concept of where do these theories of aging come from, and you have to understand that oftentimes multiple programs, multiple laboratories, multiple individuals are analyzing aging, and they see a trend in one element of the biology, and it becomes very clear that it's a fact, and so they could come up with a theory that this is underlying the demise of the organism. Okay, so there's nothing about aging that makes you more fit so that you're more competitive as an organism. It's a decline. And what you're going to see is when you look at these theories of aging is that there's this complete and total overlap, okay? That all is pretty much happening simultaneously, all right? When we look at aging, obviously we want it all to be relevant to humans, but it's really, really expensive to study humans, clinical studies looking at humans, because our aging is so slow and progressive. So you're looking at aging or a disease where, it takes 10, 15 years, you can't finance that kind of study. It's really difficult to make very rapid progress. We still do those kind of studies. It's important to make sure what we find out through animal models that is relevant. Okay, so then we go into animal models. The best ones, the more relevant to us are mammals. So we look at mice and rats. Again, pretty costly to follow an animal over 3 years. Okay, budgets for funding for grants, you may get funded for, say, a 3-year grant, and it's really hard to make breakthroughs in terms of the understanding. And so people that were really into the theoretical aspect of aging began to look at model organisms, short-lived organisms, and so they came up with looking at simple organisms like fruit flies, like these little nematode worms. They found them in the soil called C. elegans, and also looking at something as simple as a single-celled organism like yeast. And what's amazing is evolutionarily the same basic aspects of aging are conserved, okay? And so then they can look at things like diet, and diet does affect aging, how many calories you take in, okay? And when you restrict your calories, the organisms live longer. That's true whether we're looking at worms, okay, whether we're looking at Drosophila, or looking at, like I said, animal models, okay, which are mammalian models, which are like mice and rats, okay? We look at, again, this conservation, okay, and we can look at genes that play out, and a real important one in terms of diet that we're looking at right here is the growth signals, okay? So when you have unlimited nutrition, it's grow all the time, and that's what insulin, and this is another hormone called insulin-like growth factor, IGF-1. And so the organism just gets into this pattern of growth, and there's a trade-off, okay? If you have too much growth, and this is this concept that we see later on of antagonistic pleiotropy, then there's not enough repair, and a lot of damage sets in. If it happens at the DNA, now you're in trouble, okay? Because that is your cookbook, your blueprint for keeping your cells going, especially when looking at cells that are turning over all the time, like your GI system, your skin, your kidneys, even liver and things like that, okay? Alrighty, so that's that concept, all right? Real important for cancer, right? Because if you're just growing and you're not going in and repairing, then mutations develop in cells, and then those cells get pushed to grow and reproduce, and pushed to grow and reproduce, and you never get rid of the damage, and all of a sudden it's catastrophic, the number of mutations, and you can get a really nasty full-blown cancer. That's theory, all right? All right, so what are we looking at here? Okay, it was observed that a lot of proteins stop losing their function with aging. They get kind of cross-linked. It's like, how well does my right arm work? Works pretty well until I get cross-linked like this by another protein. Okay, and a big cross-linker is actually sugar. So diabetics that have really high levels of sugar have everything have their proteins get cross-linked. Not a good thing. Right, and then the organ begins to, and the system begins to decline, and that's the concept of cross-linking. Another thing is oxidation. You take away an electron, all right, I'm all good, or I take away an electron, now I'm really reactive, and then cross-link, okay? No longer work functionally, and that happens at your DNA, your proteins, and even at your cell membranes, okay? Alrighty, we can look then at kind of evolutionary theory, okay? It's good for us to die off, okay? We just want to live long enough to make sure that we reproduce, make sure our progeny, our offspring, our children survive, and then you're out of here, okay? And that's what the evolutionary theory is about. So we've evolved to be this way. And a big part of this concept that's linked to this. You see this antagonistic pleiotropy. It's a fancy-ass term for meaning that has opposing health aspects. So when you're young, things that are good for you, chronically, when you're old, that very same thing causes you to have aging and disease. Okay. So an example, it's good to have lots of appetite and to grow when you're young so you can be big and strong. As you get older, it's not good to have tons of appetite and still have those growth patterns. That's an antagonistic pleiotropy. Another example is stress. Okay, it's good to have secrete a bunch of adrenaline and this hormone called cortisol when you're being chased by a lion. All good, okay, but you do that psychologically over a lifetime. It causes diabetes, cancer, all these things. Okay, so good for the short term, bad for the long term. Okay. Antagonistic pleiotropy. Okay, another example is infections. Okay, what do we do with infections? We have inflammation. Good for the short term to get rid of that the bacteria that got injected into your skin and your vascular system by a mosquito. That's inflammation. It gets all red. Inflammation is bad, however, when the same process happens in your vasculature and in your joints, vasculature for heart disease, stroke, and joints for arthritis. So you can see this concept of good versus bad, and that's antagonistic pleiotropy. Alrighty, maintaining your genome, okay, that's the whole concept of repair that I was talking about before. So you're dividing too quickly and you're not maintaining repair, or you do maintain repair. And a key element, and here's the push to growth that I was talking about with a lot of nutrition, okay? A key element in terms of the repair is doing a maintenance and repair of your DNA, okay? And that's a big gene in that is P53. And when that is the repair gene, and when it gets mutated, as it does in cancer, it's a problem. All right, so I'm just sifting through here, but that's an overview of the basics of this, okay? All righty, now we come down here, okay? And we go into the discussion, okay? Now, a limit that happens when you have an imbalance that I can talk about is there's only so many cell divisions, okay? And that's a genetic thing, okay? There's a clock. It's a little segment of your DNA called a telomere, and it gets smaller and smaller, and the smaller it gets with each cell division, the slower the cell division and the limits of the cell division. And this happens to your eggs and to your sperm. So I want you to read up about this in discussion and then comment on it. Really cool website, you go into it, all right? And it explains a lot about reproductive issues in aging, okay? A lot of you think to yourselves, that's not me, but it is you, okay? Because, are you guys producing a bunch of children right now and you're 18, 19, and 20, 21, and 22? Probably not, okay? So during these years, even though you're fertile, you don't have a lot of birth going on because you use birth control, okay? All right, this is when you're starting to consider having children, so this is the highest fertility rate also biologically. Your eggs and your sperm are at their absolute best, and then you see the fertility rate just drops off, okay? This is looking at eggs. We'll see that we have similar problems in terms of the sperm. Okay, so you go to school, you go to grad school, you get a job, you're 35 years old and you want to start having kids and suddenly you're infertile, okay? And so that's what this is a company that's looking at helping people that are infertile have children, okay? So as you go through this website, it explains to you how to look at your fertility. It's an interaction between, here's your brain, your pituitary gland, and your ovaries, okay? And as your ovaries have the egg develop as you cycle through every month, the estrogen that's produced comes back here and affects the production of this hormone called FSH that causes the egg's follicle to grow and grow and grow. It's a follicle stimulating hormone. And then there's another hormone that causes the follicle to burst and release the egg. Okay, one of the drugs that helps in this is clomiphene, okay? And so you, for infertility, you inject yourself with clomiphene, and it causes the brain to produce tons and tons of FSH and LH, and that causes you to become a super ovulator. And so instead of having one egg go through, you might have 8 eggs go through, and that's how you get multiple births. Okay, so you might have triplets or quadruplets or something like that. Okay, so I just want you to kind of look through this, familiarize yourself with it, and then be able to get back here and talk about it, and talk about your own fertility issues. And like I said, men, yeah, it's a big issue with you as well. And this right here, this paper, you can go ahead and access this figure right here, or you can also look up the paper on your own. But you see that changes in our quality of sperm. So we have reduced fertility, and we also have increased problems in terms of the quality of the sperm, in terms of the outcome of your child. Do they have autism, ADHD, psychosis, bipolar disease? And you see that the older the father, the bigger the problems. Okay, and this is just kind of a statistical analysis right here in terms of how they're doing the analysis of age. Okay, alrighty. So that is it, my friends, for that. Please look at my video for the critical thinking assignment. That will help you as well. I'm looking forward for this discussion. This is a very, very real discussion, something that you all go through, something that we went through as well as parents. Julie and I didn't have our careers together. Had our first child at approximately 32 and a half, 33 years of age from mom. I was almost 39. And then child number 2, I was in my low 40s, and Julia was much older because it took us 5.5 years through this type of advanced technology. Alrighty, guys. That's it for now, and we'll see you next time.